Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. We're at the number one, my favorite Wrestlemania match of all time. I talked about Shawn and Undertaker, Wrestlemania 25, quite possibly being the greatest Wrestlemania match in history. If you had it at number one, I would not argue that case. In fact, I full-heartedly respect it, and I could agree with you to a certain degree. As a pure wrestling match, it is the best at Mania. But with that being said, when it comes to favorites, it has to be matches that are rewatchable over and over and over again. It has to be the match that's going to be the most memorable to me. The match that's going to be the most fun for me to watch. And I knew this was going to be number one. But a lot of you were kind of speculating, probably like, what was it going to be? If it's not one of the golden era matches, if it's not Shawn and, Taker 2, some people might think, well, was it maybe John Cena versus The Rock? Was it maybe Angle versus Brock Lesnar, maybe? Was it maybe Undertaker Triple H at WrestleMania 28? It's none of those. Although those would be honorable mentions. The match, though, in my opinion, is the best WrestleMania match ever. But at least in my eyes, it's my favorite of all time. And it goes to WrestleMania 22. I had to call it the very low-key WrestleMania. I don't know the term. I just had the name of it. The very low-key Mania we'll call it for right now, until I think of the phrase. But the match I'm talking about was the match of the night of that WrestleMania. And that is two of my all-time favorite wrestlers. And probably the greatest hardcore match of all time. That is the hardcore legend Mick Foley versus the Rated R superstar Edge. I love this match. It is undoubtedly, in my opinion, the greatest hardcore match of all time. Between two of some of my all-time favorite wrestlers, that being Mick Foley and Edge. Mick Foley, at this time, was semi-retired. He was supposed to retire No Way Out 2000 in a Hell in a Cell match with Triple H. And of course, we know that he wrestled WrestleMania, that he made some on-off appearances, especially in 2006. He wrestled a little bit more often in 2006. Meanwhile, Edge was one of those guys who was a tag team specialist for many years. I mentioned him a few times on this list already. But then he slowly went away and became a mid-carder. He was even part of SmackDown. He was one of the guys that Paul Heyman was pushing. During that SmackDown period from 2002-2003, which were by far the best years of SmackDown, Paul Heyman was trying to push guys like Brock Lesnar, guys like Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Edge, Mysterio. He was trying to push some of these newer guys up. And all those guys ended up becoming big names. I mean, Chris Benoit became a big name. Eddie Guerrero became a great character, one of the most respected athletes in the business. Rey Mysterio became one of the biggest underdogs of all time. And Edge, who actually got back to wrestling. In fact, he's having a match tonight. As I'm recording this, he's having his first singles match in 9 years at WrestleMania 36 against Randy Orton in a last man standing match. Which I'm really looking forward to that match. I hope that match gets a lot of time. But during that time frame when Edge was like that mid-carder on SmackDown, was one of the future built guys, he got injured. I think it was a torn Achilles. I don't know if that was a torn Achilles or I don't know if that was his first neck surgery. I think it was his torn Achilles, something with his leg. He was gone for a year. He was gone for a full year. And during the draft of 2004, Eric Bischoff drafted Edge to Raw. Edge came back a few months later. He speared Eric Bischoff, and then he had that awesome IC title match against Randy Orton. Vengeance, 2004. and Edge became Intercontinental Champion. And then shortly after a while, though, the fans kind of started booing him. And then he ended up becoming quite possibly one of the greatest heels of all time. He was more psychotic, more unstable. That's why he won Money in the Bank back at WrestleMania 21, which I also talked about on this list. The top 15 list. And, you know, he had that great match with Chris Benoit, that last man standing match at Backlash. He was one of the top heels. Of course, he had that real-life relationship, love triangle thing with Lita and Matt Hardy, which was, I think, one of the best rivalries of that company. But the reason why it worked so well was because it was legitimate heat. Obviously, everyone knows the story. You know, Matt and Lita were in love. They were a thing. And Matt was, I think he suffered an injury. He was off TV for a while. And during that time frame, Edge was, oh no, I think it might have been Lita who was hurt, actually. One of them was hurt. But at the end of it, Lita was seeing Edge, Adam Copeland. And Edge became a thing, and Matt was pissed. He was fired, got rehired, and they turned the whole serious angle with the, this whole real-life situation into a storyline with Matt, Edge, and Lita. Had one of the best steel cage matches, which with Matt Hardy and Edge at Unforgiven 2005. You know, and Edge was a heel. He was the Money Bank holder. Nobody really knew what that meant. After his feud with Edge, you know, he was kind of low-key for a while. Then, New Year's Revolution 2006. After John Cena retained the WWE Championship, he, inside the chamber, after the match, Vince McMahon came out and announced that Edge was cashing his Money in the Bank. And with Lita in Edge's corner, Edge hit 2 spears to beat Cena, to become the new WWE Champion. And then, of course, they had the live sex celebration with Edge and Lita, which was one of the most popular Raw segments of all time. I think that got so many views. But then again, if you looked at the outfits Lita was wearing, I mean, Jesus Christ. Everyone would claim that Lana looked like enacted like a slut at times, but Lita was outclassed Lana every way, shape. Lana could try, but no one did it better than Lita. Now, obviously, in terms of the whole Lita, Edge, and Matt Hardy stuff, all three of them, you know, have you know, forgiven each other. You know, Matt and Edge still talk now, and I think Lita and Edge talk from time to time. I think Lita and Matt are good now, but back then it was chaotic. Everyone knows the story. It was bad, but now they kind of forgive each other and they realize, yeah. But Edge was WWE Champion. And when he was WWE Champion, it got him viewers. This whole Ray R superstar gimmick, Edge was a dick. His character was a total dick, but not just in character, but in real life, because of what he did with Lita. And he got mega heat for it, but it worked. So he was WWE Champion, he was on top of the world, and we were thinking maybe he was going to main event WrestleMania. Maybe he would defend against John Cena. But instead, he loses the championship, I believe at the Royal Rumble, like a few weeks later. And then episode of Raw, Edge demanded his rematch. On episode of Raw, I think Mick Foley was the referee. And John Cena ended up winning. He retained his championship on Raw, and Edge was pissed. He blamed Mick Foley. So what happened? Leah Lobo'd Edge, or Leah Lobo'd Mick Foley, and Edge speared Mick Foley. And that's basically how this feud started. And basically Edge was coming out saying, like, you know, Mick Foley's not a hardcore legend anymore, he's a teddy bear, which I always loved that line. He went from this hardcore Neanderthal to a cuddly little teddy bear. I always loved that. And Mick was out to prove that he was a hardcore legend, so he wanted a match. So Edge wanted a match against Mick Foley at WrestleMania, and Mick Foley said, okay, but if we're going to do this, we're going to do this on my terms. We're going to have a hardcore match. No rules. And so Edge and Mick Foley ended up having, I think it was like a 15-minute match, 16-minute match. It was pretty short. But they did so much in the match that was memorable. From commentary, from the match itself. You know, they fight, they use a couple of cookie sheets within the first minute, and Edge just spears Mick Foley within 2 minutes. We're thinking, wow, this is going to end. But Edge is hurting. His shoulder's bleeding. We're like, what the hell happened? Mick Foley wrapped barbed wire around his stomach. So when he got speared, Edge took the full blunt of the impact from the barbed wire. Biting each other, barbed wire, beating the shit out of each other. Leah got involved a few times. One of my favorite moments, low moments, was when Mick Foley got Mr. Sacco. He was about to put in a mandible claw in Edge. And Joey Styles is on commentary for this match. And he goes, well, it's not really hardcore, but it's something. But then, while Joey Styles is talking, Mick Foley grabs a piece of the barbed wire and wraps it around Mr. Sacco. And then immediately Joey Styles, no less than a second later, goes, okay, now it's hardcore. I don't know why, that always sticks with me. I've always loved that line. And of course, Edge starts getting back control, and Mick Foley's bleeding like a pig. Edge dumps the thumbtacks, which were thousands of thumbtacks. There were so much thumbtacks in that bag. And then Mick Foley backdrops him, or does a back suplex on Edge on the thumbtacks, which always sucks, you know. I mean, ask Randy Orton his story about the thumbtacks. Like, it sucks. It's not fun. I've never been on thumbtacks. I've been cut by barbed wire, but I've never been attacked by thumbtacks. I can only imagine it's basically getting like 1,000 bee stings, but worse. That's the only thing I can think of. It's either like getting stung by a bee or wasp, but hundreds of them at once. Or it's like getting a shot like a needle. But instead of one needle, it's like 1,000 mini ones. It's gonna suck. But after the match, it was the ending, which is the most memorable spot of the match. Mick Foley's like getting live food. He's pulling on a table that they set up outside. And Mick Foley's on the other side of the apron. Edge, Leah grabs the barbed wire back, Barbie, low elbows Mick. She hits him in the crotch. And then Leah sets the table on fire from the outside. And then Edge, full force, runs, spears Mick Foley right through the ropes. And they both crash onto the burning table. And I think Edge said, too, that he landed face first on that table. And keep in mind, Edge was busted open, too. And Joey Styles comment, oh my god! Edge speared Mick Foley through that flaming table. Made Edge into a star. And Edge ended up pinning up Mick Foley outside, because it's hardcore rules and a false count anywhere. And Edge gets the victory. And you see Edge, like there's blood coming down his eye, and he's shaking, selling the shit out of this, like he went to war. And I've always said this, even though Edge won the WWE Championship beforehand, just beginning of the month, beginning of the year, in my mind, it wasn't until this match where fans really took Edge seriously. Because when Edge was Mr. Money Bank, he first won the WWE Championship, people were still trying to get behind this guy. They were still trying to get this guy. And when Edge won the WWE Championship, he immediately lost it. He never was the same. It's like it looked like they're about to start with this new star, and then he just lost it. But by doing that, by having that match with Foley, it solidified his career as a top player. And after that, he ended up in that triple threat match with John Cena and Triple H. He was in a conversation with those guys. Then later on, he won the WWE Championship again in a triple threat match against RVD and Cena on an episode of Raw. And then Edge and John Cena had my favorite rivalry of the year. They went out and had the rivalry of the year. And in my opinion, I think John Cena's best rival was Edge. If John Cena was Superman, then Edge was Lex Luthor. Edge was just awesome. He had some of the most memorable matches. He had the best rivalries, the best promos with Edge. And after that, Edge won Money Bank again from Mr. Kennedy, and then went to SmackDown, became one of the faces of SmackDown again. A few guys like Batista and Undertaker who were starting to become big names. Batista was one of those big names now. And Undertaker was already a name, and Edge was feuding with these guys. And then basically the rest is history. After that, Edge became a solidified main eventer. became one of the biggest names of that company. So beforehand, there was potential in this guy. He wins the WWE Championship finally, only to lose it to 3 weeks later. But then only to have the match with Mick Foley, and after that, that was the match that made people go, oh, holy shit. And I've always questioned, it's like, is Mick Foley the king of putting guys over or making stars? Look at his feud with The Rock. Mick Foley's Mankind's feud with The Rock. Yeah, Rock and Stone Cold were the ones that made each other better, but I think it was Mick Foley who started it. Making Rock into the prick that he is and making it to a main event level with his feuds back in 1998 through 1999. Saw Monster has said this countless times, that he never bought Triple H's WWE Champion for the first time until he had that match with Cactus Jack at Royal Rumble. After that match, that's when he realized, oh, Triple H is the main eventer. Mick Foley with Randy Orton, Backlash 2004. Randy Orton never won the World Heavyweight Championship, but he was the Intercontinental Champion, and they had that match. And that was the match that made people realize Randy Orton's the future. And Randy Orton became one of the biggest names later on because of that match. And same thing here with Edge. Even though Edge was a former WWE Champion, we never bought him as champion because they never gave him the belt as long. But after that match, people took Edge seriously and realized, man, this guy's great. This guy should be WWE Champion. So, this is by far one of Mick Foley's best matches. And not even been my favorite Mick Foley match, honestly. And it's probably my favorite Edge match, if not one of my favorites. But it's also my favorite WrestleMania match of all time. And again, I haven't watched the Golden Era stuff. I haven't watched every single match. So this list can always change within like a few years. Maybe in 5 years, I do this list again, and it completely changes. But I had to do top 15 because there were still a few matches I felt like I should have put on this list. But this match is still my favorite. It's still the most memorable, and I watch it. Especially during WrestleMania season, when I go back to rewatch all the WrestleManias. Can I get my head in for WrestleMania? When that match pops up, I stop and I watch it. I love the everlasting shit of that match. Two guys. And that's one reason why I loved about Mick Foley. Was his promos, his in-ring work. He was not the greatest in-ring wrestler, but he was able to tell stories with his body, the in-ring work he did with his matches and his promos. And he made Edge look like a star. And that's why I think people will respect Mick Foley for years to come. Not just because for the stuff he's done, like he put his body through and how nice of a guy he is, but the fact that he was one of those unselfish men in the world. He was willing to put guys over and make them look like stars. And this was no exception. And if it weren't for Mick Foley, I don't think Edge would have probably been as big of a star. Maybe he would have been. But I think it was because of this match that really solidified Edge. So, that's my top 15 favorite WrestleMania matches. So, if you have any opinions, comment down below what are your top 15 favorite matches in order. Do you have if you can't do a top 15, can you do your favorite of all time? I'd like to hear your opinions. There will be a WrestleMania 36 Night 2 review later on tonight. And like I said, Edge's first singles match back. It's the last match standing match against Randy Orton. So we'll see what happens to that match. I'm really looking forward to that match. If you want to hear my thoughts about WrestleMania Night 1, there's a review up. If you want to check that out. But that's about it. Out of that, I'll see you guys later on tonight for WrestleMania Night 2. And like I said, for that night, after I review Night 2, I'll review WrestleMania as a whole. And I'll give you my complete thoughts on WrestleMania as a whole. And I'll tell you how good it was, how bad, or how decent it was. So stay tuned for that later on tonight.